With the recent massive successes of Hollow Knight, Animal Well, and Metroid, people seem to be coming back to Metroidvanias in a massive way. If history has taught us anything about the genre, it's that the best experiences often come from nowhere. The genre is more crowded than ever, which means a lot of experimentation with the genre. I've played demos, went through Steam's Next Fest, and watched many indie showcases to bring you my 14 Metroidvanias Nobody Saw Coming in 2026. MIO, Memories in Orbit, January 20th, 2026. Developed by Desiam. This game takes place on the Vessel, a colossal, decaying space ark that has a wide variety of locales, gardens, cities, industrial areas, and even cavern-like areas. You play as MIO, a nimble android who uses a grappling hook to swing, wall cling, and slingshot through complex ruins. Previews have compared the movement physics to Ori, but with the difficulty of Hollow Knight. Also, instead of a standard skill tree, you have limited memory slots to slot in chips for abilities and stat boosts. So to get further upgrades, you have to give up previous chips or swap out chips for different situations. Although it looks hand-drawn, it's actually a full 3D game with amazing cell shading that genuinely makes it look 2D. The animations are smooth and fluid, and the backgrounds are filled with movement and details. Kotama, an Academy Citadel, January 14th, 2026 on Steam. Released just days ago, Kotama, an Academy Citadel might look like a regular anime game, but beneath the waifu aesthetic lies a brutally technical Metroidvania. Developed by Adam String Games, you play as Kotama, a transfer student at the futuristic Caramel Academy, where the only way to become the top student, the Caramel Star, is to literally beat the curriculum out of your classmates. The game has a sort of day-night cycle. As you move from room to room, the in-game clock ticks forward. When night falls, everything shifts. Enemies get tougher, routes change, and the cheerful school vibes change into something more sinister. You have to manage your school day carefully, using a rewind mechanic to manipulate the timeline and solve puzzles that span different hours of the day. Combat also has this fluid detonation mechanic, where you coat enemies in this liquid with light attacks and then use a heavy finisher to detonate them for massive damage and healing. It forces you to play aggressively if you want to heal. The Perfect Pencil, January 29th, 2026. While many games on this list focus on alien planets or cursed castles, The Perfect Pencil takes place in the human imagination. Developed by the Italian indie team Studio Sima, this hand-drawn action platformer has you playing as John, a boy with a camera for a head, who is trapped in a surreal psychological landscape known as the Kingdom of the White Beast. What separates this from your regular Metroidvania is its integration of narrative choice. This isn't about unlocking double jumps or mega dashes, but rather how your decisions affect the story and how that directly shapes the world, characters, and enemies. You wield the titular Perfect Pencil as a weapon to redraw the environment and battle manifestations of anxiety and fear. The combat is clearly taken from Hollow Knight, but that's secondary to the diegetic narrative system, where your interactions with the game's characters determine which paths open up to you. It's an emotional, surrealist world that's equal parts horror and whimsy. Tearscape, February 2nd, 2026. This is basically Bloodborne, if it were remade for the Game Boy Advance. While most retro Metroidvanias aim for the SNES era, developer nerds take over has committed to the crunchier, 8-bit aesthetic of handheld classics, and a beautifully gothic color palette that is both dark and vibrant. Don't let the 8-bit pixel art presentation fool you. This is 100% a Souls-like. Combat is deliberate and stamina-based. You have to carefully position yourself and time your attacks and rolls if you want any chance of beating these Lovecraftian nightmare monsters. You play as a hunter, exploring a vast, non-linear kingdom, where progression is gated not just by keys, but by the utility abilities you unlock, which turns the top-down world into a complex puzzle of shortcuts and secrets. It's a dense, atmospheric adventure that I sincerely hope I can get running on my little handheld emulator for maximum effect. Ember Bane, February 24th, 2026. If you ever wanted a Metroidvania where you played as the Avatar from The Last Airbender, not the James Cameron movies or Ultima series, then this is it. Developed by the small indie team at Hamlet Games, this title pitches itself as an elemental action platformer where you don't just swap to the element that is the weakness of the enemy, but which is a key to a flexible combat system. You play as Ophelia, a protagonist on a revenge quest to slay the malevolent gods, who have thrown the world of Elsinore into chaos. As for how the elements come into play, you can seamlessly switch between them mid-combo to chain attacks. Dash in quickly, hold up an earth shield to block an attack. Fire whip, push away with air, then finish them off with water blast. And it's not just combat. The different elements offer different traversal abilities. Once you're able to chain them together, you can practically fly across the map. Nevergrave, The Witch and the Curse, March 5th, 2026. From the developers that brought us Palworld comes a Metroidvania that's mixed with a roguelite. You play as a cursed hat, and yes, only the hat, not the girl, that possesses a body to crawl through procedurally generated dungeons. The hat possession mechanic is, I'm 100% sure, inspired by Super Mario Odyssey, because with it, you can possess dead enemies and play as them instead. In fact, there's even a 4-player coupe mode, where one of you plays as the girl, and the others have to keep possessing killed enemies to progress. It also borrows the base building loop from Cult of the Lamb. Between runs, you return to a hub village to clear rubble, build facilities, and farm crops to permanently upgrade your stats. Hollow Knight, Mario Odyssey, Cult of the Lamb, and also Dead Cells. Between this and Palworld, Pocket Pair really wears its inspirations on its sleeve, huh? Olly and the Merchant of Dreams, March 12, 2026. Don't let the charming, simplistic art style fool you. Mechanically, this game is quite dense and varied. Developed by Lava Drop Entertainment, you play as the catkin boy Olly, living in the crumbling world of Hilton Arrow, where dreams have stopped flowing, and reality is literally coming apart at the seams. Instead of just getting power-ups, here Olly forms bonds with ancient deities and creatures that fundamentally change the gameplay. You can summon an alicorn to ride on, which creates shoot-'em-up style areas, or a hulking iron mech suit that slowly crushes its way through barriers and defenses. It mixes the standard Metroidvania combat with sudden shifts in gameplay to different genres. The narrative is also branching, depending on which dream energy path you prioritize. It can lead to multiple different endings. It's a game that embodies the energy and creativity of cartoons, like Adventure Time and Thundercats combined. Nothing beyond this point. March 31st, 2026. Metroidvanias usually rely on walls to guide you. Nothing beyond this point removes them entirely, dropping you into a pitch-black void that's completely open for you to explore. Developed by the Solo, Dev Do, this top-down action game has a unique survival mechanic. Your health and your ammo are the exact same resource. You control a floating cube surrounded by rods, spinning shields that block incoming attacks. To attack, you have to launch these rods at enemies, literally using your own shields to deal damage. It's a nice and challenging balance, where playing too safely extends the fights, but playing too aggressively leaves you completely naked. With 12 bosses, no invisible walls, and a map you have to physically trace onto the darkness yourself. This is an existential dread simulator that treats emptiness as a gameplay mechanic. Also, I can't help but notice how the main character looks like a Minecraft blaze, and the game contains a lot of elements reminiscent of Minecraft. Just an observation. Before I go, April 13th, 2026. When a developer explicitly markets their game as a punishing Metroidvania, you know you're in for a rough time. Developed by the French solo studio Jay's Laboratory, Before I Go leans hard into the Get Good gaming culture, just like what Hollow Knight did with Silksong. You play as an innocent inner child, traversing a surreal, dreamlike purgatory on a journey toward accepting death. It sounds heavy, and the gameplay matches the weight of this brutal theme. The world is a single interconnected vector art map with zero loading screen, filled with hyper-lethal parasitic monstrosities and platforming sections that will kill you many, many times. This is a no-holds-barred challenge of a game. Progression is gated by your ability to master movement and assimilate new powers from the bosses you defeat. If you beat Silksong and want more challenge, then this melancholic game will be the next wall to butt your head against. Solitaria, Q1, 2026. If you played Silksong and you wished it were more like Sekiro, first off, what is wrong with you? And secondly, Solitaria would be your answer. Developed by the Korean indie team Studio Dudao, this hand-drawn Metroidvania cast you as a tiny fire warrior on a quest to find the primordial flame in a world consumed by the Shadow Plague. The core gameplay loop revolves entirely around a precision parry system, just like Sekiro. You're having to deflect attacks to break enemy resistance and trigger stylish Pyron actions. On top of that, combat bleeds directly into exploration, as many of your offensive moves, like the Ash Blaster or Air Dashes, double as traversal tools to reach new areas. There is also a heat core system that lets you customize your fire abilities, allowing for varied and cool builds. With the gorgeous, painterly soft, and detailed art style, I can see this being a cult hit with Silksong fans. Little Nemo and the Guardians of Slumberland, Q1 2026. I don't know if most of you know of Little Nemo, but it was a 1989 animated kids movie I saw when I was a wee lad. Incredible movie. If you love classic Disney-style movies, I highly recommend it. Along with it came an NES tie-in game that actually got amazing reviews, with scores in the low 90%. It was described as one of the best platformers on the NES. Well, Dicesoft is here to reclaim the legacy of this classic with a stunning hand-drawn art style. This is a dream world Metroidvania, where the map isn't a physical place. It's a shifting, surreal landscape of the subconscious. It is incredibly cute and charming. Instead of collecting souls or finding upgrades, you collect toys and pajamas. Changing your pajamas at a dresser grants different passive ability, like climbing or floating, while toys act as your offensive tools against the nightmare creatures of the Oblivion. This vibrant trip through a child's imagination is the perfect palate cleanser. Dumbriel, Magnificent Adventure in Hell, Q2 2026. Most games set in the underworld take themselves very seriously. It's called Grimdark for a reason. Dumbriel, Magnificent Adventure in Hell, takes a slapstick comedic approach to depicting hell. Developed by Mad Moa, this hand-painted Metroidvania casts you as the titular Dumbriel, a clumsy fallen angel who just tripped and fell into hell. The gameplay is definitely based off Ori and the Blind Forest, as it's a mix of solid Souls-like combat and physics-based platforming. You don't just jump and land on platforms. You are often tumbling, dragging objects, and dealing with the clumsiness of your character's movement. This is also one of the most beautiful depictions of hell I've seen, with the painterly art style lending to the haunting backdrop design. This hell is more like the depictions of the vast and empty asphodel, rather than the burning brimstone of Tartarus that most of us think of. With large and tough Souls-like bosses, massive maps to explore, and a powerful upgrade system, you'll be playing this game for many hours. Meera and the Legend of the Jinns, 2026. We've seen plenty of games based on Greek, Japanese, Chinese, and Christian mythology. Meera and the Legend of the Jinns is the first game I've seen that's based on the rich, spiritual landscape of Moroccan mythology. Developed by Little Night Games, this 2D action-adventure is steeped in North African Amazigh culture. You play as Yuba, a treasure hunter, and Meera, an ancient jinn suffering from amnesia. The gameplay revolves around the primal elements of the jinns: solar, celestial, infernal, and lunar. Combat requires you to switch between these elemental modes on the fly to exploit enemy weaknesses and traverse the environment. You could use a solar blade to overheat an enemy's armor, then instantly swap to a lunar form to phase through their counterattack. Usually, Metroidvania characters are large and articulate, with slow combat pacing and careful traversal, but Yuba here is a small, tight bundle of pixels, and his moveset is fast and zippy, relying on quick reactions, dodges, and aerial maneuverability. Melia, Echoes of the Past, 2026. We end this list with probably the most ambitious game here. A true 3D Metroidvania that doesn't work like a linear action game. Developed by the French duo Soul Brothers, Melia, Echoes of the Past is an atmospheric sci-fi adventure that heavily reminds me of the hostile isolation of Metroid Prime and the floaty controlled movement of Pseudo-Regalia. The game drops you into a techno-organic labyrinth where nature has overgrown ancient machinery. Your character has a phasic transformation power set, allowing for you to teleport, phase through matter, and use other glitch-like dimensional powers. The game promises a non-linear freedom, with no guidance, allowing you to traverse this 3D labyrinth however you like, making your adventure your own. The visuals took me some getting used to, but I'm sure a lot of people would appreciate the Mobius-inspired art style. 2026 is looking to be the year Metroidvanias come back. These 14 games provide a wide variety, from the bleak and punishing to the esoteric and philosophical, and the colorful and relaxing. Don't let these fly under your radar. Add them to your wish list. Support the indie devs exploring and innovating on wild new ideas and concepts.